Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are having a look in War Thunder at a bunch of events and also sales which are happening on this weekend once again. The first piece of the news though is a little bit of a weird one. The Battle Pass right now is temporarily unavailable. Now it might be back by the time that I make this video, but it just seems kind of odd how the Battle Pass itself can be temporarily unavailable and just not be accessed. Such a very weird piece of news. I don't think I've ever seen that, apart from when they switched over to the actual Battle Pass system, and there was a few kind of issues when it started. But apart from that, it's kind of run really well. So super surprising to see that happen. Another piece of news is that they are celebrating Tankers Day, and that means there is a decoration and also discounts that are going to be available from the 12th to the 15th of September. This is basically a day for Russia, so there is a bunch of Russian vehicles that are on offer. We'll go through them all. Basically, a bunch of store packs are available. If you want to pick any of them up, obviously, you can use my discount code in the description. I'll leave some other ones to vehicles which I think are worth kind of going through. And then the decoration itself is the Golden Heat decoration, which is, well, what it says on the tin. It's a Heat FS shell, which is golden. And all you got to do is earn 10,000 mission points with the USR ground vehicles at rank 3 or higher to receive it over the weekend. So make sure to do that. You can do it alongside the Pages of History, which is quite nice. Another piece of news is there's obviously going to be Twitch drops, I believe, on this weekend for the esports side of things. So go get yourself some free stuff. Go and have a watch and enjoy the content from the Gaijin guys. So all the Russian tanks that we're going to have a look at are 30% off right now. Basically, if you want to pick them up, it's not a bad idea, but at the same time, just remember that in November we do get the 50% off sales. That doesn't guarantee that all of these vehicles will be 50% off, but it's something to at least consider. The first vehicle we're having a look at is the T80U E1, or the UE, as I like to call it. It's just a premium T80 with a nice camo kind of set on the turret. All these extra bushes are mine, so don't worry about it. Basically, yeah, they just kind of appear when they feel like it. But yeah, it's just a standard T80. It has the 125mm 2A46. This gives it access to 3BM46, which basically makes it an 11.7 instead of a 12.0. If it was a 12.0, it would have the 3BM60. But it has access to the thermals, it has access to artillery, the laser rangefinder, it has access to the better mobility of the T80 series, and also the better transmission and the better targeting speed, and also it has access to the better reload. So that's basically why the T80s are the premiums and not the T72s, because they're just better vehicles than them. The T80 is a great vehicle. There's no real issues, at least in my opinion, with it. I know there's a lot of people who don't specifically like it right now because a lot of the kind of, let's call it Western MBTs got a bunch of buffs the last few years, but I generally think it still works well, especially with the lineup around it. The biggest issue with these top tier kind of tanks is the idea that you need a lineup, because there are so many ways you can randomly die. You're not going to be able to solo carry with a vehicle like this. So that's more of the issue instead of the actual fact that it isn't very good. The TURMS-T 1 is very good and it works very well. The Terms is also on sale right now, and I would say this is in a much weaker position than many of the other ones that are around. Basically, the issue that the Terms has is pretty simple. It has a lot of cool factors to make it the BR that it has, such as it has very good thermals, it has very good gunner thermals, and also has very good commander thermals. It also has the 3BM42, which is a very good round for 10.3, but it also doesn't have a lot of armor, and it has a pretty bad targeting speed, meaning that this gun has the same targeting speed as 9.3 vehicles and even 9.0 vehicles. And with a ton of premiums now at 10.7 and also 11.0, you're going to really struggle to fight them in this thing because they're going to shoot you before you see them. It's one of the problems that the Terms has had for the longest time, and basically why, if you actually have a look at the Soviet tech tree, the T80UD and also the 2S38 are just much better options instead of the Terms itself. The Terms is probably the best vehicle that you can add in this lineup as a third if you don't have the T-72s in the tech tree. But basically, it just has too many factors that just don't work well for it. Its armor cannot hold up against a lot of the rounds that it faces, and the targeting speed just gets you killed so many times that it's just not really worth playing. You have to use it as a long-range sniper, and as we know when it comes to War Thunder, because of how the game has gone, the long-range sniper role doesn't really exist at this tier of the game. You know, it's much more close quarters than that. So for me, this is a tough sell, especially when you have the TUD and the TUS-38, which are way better than this thing in the game. The BMD-4M is also an offer. This one went up in BR recently. Doesn't mean it's still not good though. It still works incredibly well. The BMD-4M is a very aggressive tank, meaning that you fly forward and do a lot of damage with it. And then from there, what you end up doing is kind of just setting up a good position for your team. And if you end up dying, that's fine. You either bring in CAS or you bring in other tanks to be able to push that advantage. So certain light tanks are very good at, let's call, passive scouting. Other ones are very good at holding flanks, and other ones are very good at just running in, causing a ruckus, and giving your team an advantage. The BMD-4M is the third one. It has insanely good targeting speed. It also has an ATGM, which you can fire on the move, even though you're limited to only, I think, 4 of them. That's enough to get you going. You also have the laser rangefinder, the Gen 2 thermals, and also the APDS, which will pretty much pen everything, either through the side or through the front, depending on what you're fighting. The only issue with this BMD-4M is it's slightly slower than the standard BMD-4, since it has the 500 horsepower Transmash, and then also the transmission, which isn't as good as the other one, but everything else about it is fantastic. You will die while playing this thing, but you will also cause a ruckus and give your team a good kind of platform to push forward. The only problem, it isn't as good as it was before, because the 9.7 lineup for Russia isn't as strong as the 9.3 one. You basically have the T-64B and then the 9.3 lineup. So you just have to understand that, unless you have the BMD-4 standard, and also if you're going to get the BMD-4M2, which is coming into the tech tree here, it's going to be a little bit more of a struggle than you may think. Then we have the Object 140. This is another vehicle that recently went up in BR, showing that it's obviously been doing very well. This vehicle kind of adds a bunch of different interesting things together. The first thing is this 100mm D54TS, and this gun has access to APDS, which is quite nice, but also gets access to the APC-BC with 100 grams of TNT equivalent. This means that it can do a lot of post-penetration damage with that HE filler, and it also has very good penetration. So against a lot of targets, which to be honest, around this BR are usually not that armored, you can actually hammer them with the APC-BC. The only few nations, well, mainly the only nation that actually has armor around this BR is, funnily enough, Russia. So a lot of people are running around in Leopards, a lot of people are running around in light tanks, so that round is very good at dealing with them. And with the rangefinder, you can engage stuff at, you know, longer ranges. You got the artillery and stuff like that. Then you also have this silly 14.5mm KPVT on the top, which pens up to 50 millimeters, so you can deal with light tanks quite well. Now, it does have a long reload, just like a lot of these kind of Soviet 8.0 to 9.0 vehicles, which is a bit of a problem. It has pretty decent mobility for what it is, and the armor can be trolley since it's good old volumetric on the turret. And then also on the upper glacis, you're looking at about 200 millimeters. That should be quite easy to pen, but you have this absolutely outrageously large fuel tank, which, as we know when it comes to Soviet vehicles, eats rounds like no tomorrow. So yeah, that's also a problem. The actual ammo itself is encased in these ammo in this fuel tank, but you have a armored fuel tank basically at the front, which is going to soak the round, so you're not going to be able to hit the ammo in the back. You can shoot the right hand side to be able to take out the 3 crew, but it's a little bit harder to do. So at 8.7, you have an insane lineup. You know, you have the T-62, which is one of my favorite vehicles. You have the BMP-2, the 685. You have the IT-1. You have the Sturm, if you're crazy. And also, you have some decent backups. One of the problems with 8.0, 8.3, and also 7.7 area for the Soviets, because a lot of vehicles have got up in BR, they have like these weird holes in lineups now. So the 140 added onto this 8.7 lineup can give you a good push to be able to try and kind of grind everything out. But at the same time, it did recently go up in BR. This obviously isn't good for the vehicle. T55AM is also on offer. This is kind of an old god when it comes to War Thunder. One of the vehicles that has always been lower BR than it should be, but nowadays I feel like it is actually at the BR that it deserves. It still has the 100mm, so doesn't upgrade to the 125 that a lot of other Soviet vehicles do at 9.3 and 9.7, but it does get access to the ABF SDS, the 3BM25, which if you've actually looked at this round, so one of the things you may notice about some of these Soviet APF SDSs is they are kind of fat. They're a bit obese. So you can see on this one, even in like the little kind of image here or the little video, you can see how it has like a fat head on it. That's basically showing what they were like in real life. So this one has, you know, a decent amount of penetration, but it also has a fat head, which does quite a lot of damage, even for 100mm. You also have an 80 gem if you want to use that. You have the funny APC BC, and then also the other rounds. But the main thing is you have that APF SDS. You also got the laser rangefinder and the smoke grenades, which generally, obviously, is a good combo, something that a lot of the other machines were missing. And you have this really weird additional composite armor that could be incredibly trolley to basically everything that you're facing. You also have, once again, the good old fuel tank combos to keep this thing alive, which is, once again, very annoying. And you do get the better reload on the 100mm compared to some of the previous vehicles. So this vehicle, as I said, before, it was in a really, really, really good place. It is not in as good of a place at the moment. It's still in a pretty decent place. So it's still completely fine, especially when, once again, you have a look at the 9.0 lineup. The only issue with the 9.0 lineup for Russia is the 9.3 lineup for Germany exists, and the 9.3 lineup for Germany is absolutely insane. And that lineup, I'm amazed it hasn't been broken up yet, because it's a super dominant lineup. So you've got to be a bit careful of that if you're looking at these 8.7 or 9.0 vehicles. There's also the Object 120 on offer. I'm not a huge fan, personally. It's one of those vehicles which relies heavily on the fact that it has a really funny round in the form of the 152 APDS FS. It has good, you know, penetration, as also the round is huge. So you could see 8 kilos of projectile mass. So if it pens a target, it pretty much kills it, but that's all it has. It has okay mobility, you know, for a vehicle like this, but with that okay mobility, you have terrible gun handling. And at 8.0, you start going up against things which have stabilizers. Like the fact that the TURMS-T is 8.3 and this thing's 8.0 is laughable. But the simple thing is, it just isn't very good at anything else. And even if you do really well at the start of the game, where you get like a few kills together, you know, you're doing all right. Well, guess what happens? CAS starts turning up and you have absolutely no armor against it. In the turret, you have 10mm of armor, which is where your ammo is. So you just pop every single time whenever a CAS vehicle turns up. So as a novelty, to be able to bang, bang, boom, boom people with the gun, I mean, it's an interesting one, but at least in my opinion, it's just more frustrating than it is fun, just because of the fact that you are limited in so many different areas. And basically, you're only at the BR that you're at because you have a high penetrating round. And in my opinion, that never works very well. The IS-6 is also on sale, the good old Russian heavy tank, which, to be honest, I think is always in a pretty decent position. Another vehicle that did go up more recently, but also deserved to go up. The IS-6 is interesting because it gets access to the 122mm D30T cannon, and that means it gets the BR-471D, which struggles against some heavy tanks, but at the same time does very well against medium tanks. It has enough TNT equivalent to overpressure stuff, so all you have to do is focus on penetrating, and the target will just instantly die, which is very ridiculous. And since it's a heavy tank, it doesn't really get any other factors. So you don't get smokes, you don't get scouting, you don't get artillery, nothing like that. You just have to focus on bing bong bonking people. Now, the interesting thing about the IS-6 is it has access to, I think, the best 122mm reload out of all of the kind of heavy tanks for Russia, at least around this BR. Why is that the case? I have absolutely no idea. The other thing, which is also pretty crazy about the IS-6, which you may have noticed when it comes to this vehicle, is it doesn't actually have a first stage ammo stowage. What this basically means is no matter where you actually, no matter how many rounds you bring in the vehicle, they all have the same reload, which is kind of ridiculous once again. They just never updated it to have a first stage ammo stowage. But if you have a look at the IS-4M, which is the same BR as the IS-6, this vehicle has a reloading rate of 20.8 seconds as at an aced crew. The IS-6 has a reload of 15.8 seconds for some reason. So it's just so much better in terms of it. It's got great mobility for a heavy tank. It has trolley armor on the front of it, especially when you angle it, and also has a bit of a trolley turret. Is it as strong as it used to be? No, but it also used to be overpowered. So for me, I think this is in a pretty good position, and generally is still a nice pickup to have. The next vehicle that exists is the T126, and also there is good old the other vehicle that's come alongside this, because it's the USS starter pack. So you get this vehicle, and then you also get Zukovsky's vehicle, which is over here, the I-153M62. The starter pack is always a great offer in terms of what you should kind of pick up in the game. The T126 is in a bit of an odd position right now because it's at a BR where there isn't really anything else in the Soviet tech tree apart from the ZIS-43 of all things, but it's still really fun to play. It's just a wide boy T50, so it has the 45 and also has the scouting, and generally it's just quite nice to wander about with. And also Zukovsky's is just a fun start to the tech tree because of the fact that it just has great maneuverability. So the starter packs are always worth it. The only question is whether it's worth actually kind of playing with the starter packs, or is it worth waiting until they're 50% off? Because right now it's 30% off. So, and usually those things go 50% off pretty quickly. Another vehicle that is 30% off is the Ka-50, and this is basically because of Nikolai Kamov's birthday. The Ka-50 is very strong and always has been. Whenever people tell you that it isn't as good as, or it's trash now, I should probably say, that just is code for it isn't as overpowered as it was previously. The Ka-50 is still very good. If you have eyes and if you know how to use the Vikir, you can have a great time with it. It has a more system, so you know when you're getting targeted, and also at the same time, you have enough countermeasures to survive, and it's great at rocket rushing. This vehicle, the only kind of downside it has is it doesn't have any thermals, so you're going to actually have to use your eyes, and I suppose it doesn't have any of the fire and forget stuff, so once again, you are actually going to have to at least think slightly while using it. The fact is this vehicle is still very strong. They refuse to put it up in BR because it doesn't have specific systems, and also because it's used so much. So you can face vehicles that just can't defend against this. If you get into 10-3 or 10-7 matchmaking, you just annihilate things. So it's a very, very good vehicle. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.